Great. We're recording.
It's rainy today. I thought that's just how you were starting the episode.
Do you want me to start the episode that way?
It's rainy today. It is. It's like dark out.
It is like really dark here in
also
Westchester, Pennsylvania. Yeah.
I'm really feeling the effects of the sun going down earlier.
Already? It's barely started.
I just have such a reaction to it.
Yeah, I know. You're very sensitive to the environment.
I get one of those lights, and I put it in front of my desk.
One, yes.
I put it like right at my window to pretend like the sun's still
Does it work?
I should just, what we should invent? And like you can take this idea
because
we'll never invent it. Like a full window that can transform into like one of the lights. Like slowly, almost like those glasses that you get, the transitions.
Transitional glasses? Can we talk about transitional glasses?
Please.
Because transitional sunglasses,
That's what our
glasses and
episodes
sunglasses are one of the funniest things because they take such a significant amount of time to fully transition to the other one. That also, Jen, it's going to be very hard for me to take you seriously if you're going to make the decision to drink one of the free reign arousal flavors the entire episode.
It's so good.
Okay, but we also, in our fridge, we have stock with free reign. We love these drinks. Okay, but you could have chosen energy, but today you happen to have chosen arousal.
It's just so good. I know. Listen, I'll control myself.
Will you?
I don't know. Time will tell. It's so good. It's grapefruit.
It's just, I just like that right now at like 9:30 in the morning, that's where we're at.
Who doesn't need like a quick pick-me-up of arousal?
Well, let's talk about morning sex. Just kidding. That's not what today's episode about, but we should do an entire episode on morning sex and why I think it's better than night sex.
Can you give me like the tidbits of it?
Well, by nighttime, I feel I am just so done. You know what I mean? Like after I put my daughter to bed and I have already gotten, when you get your little spot in your mattress.
And you don't want to move.
And you don't want to move, right? Mm-hmm. So I go into this place of I'm pretty zenned out and I'm ready to get into sleep mode. And also sleep takes me a while. So if I have sex at night, sometimes it takes me a while to come down and fall asleep afterwards. Where my husband will just
pass out. Unbelievable.
Pass out in 1 second, no problem.
Right. I have so many things going through my head of I didn't get to do this or I didn't.
So my preferred method is morning and or afternoon sex.
Interesting. I think afternoon's the move.
It is, right? If you're able to do that in your schedule with, work from home.
Well, also in the morning, your breath smells.
Well, okay, you can get up for a quick second and brush your teeth.
Too much work. Once I'm up, I'm gone.
You're gone. You're gone.
I'm not getting back in. This is not what our episode today.
This is not at all what the episode's about. But here we are. The issue is, this is why I don't like video. So now we video record. We've been told we have to video record so you can make, reels and all the other stuff. I'm very bad at looking at the camera.
Me too.
Okay.
Well, it's weird because it's almost like you have to stare at each other, but also stare. It's like
it's too much. Hello.
Your eyes need to go in two different directions.
Perfect. Okay. Today's episode, we're gonna talk a little bit about owning a business.
Yes.
And being women and owning a business.
And also being in a helping profession and starting in a helping profession and trying to combine your personal self with your professional self.
Yes.
I'm using air quotes for those of you who are
right, because what does a professional self mean?
Right.
And so
why can't they be combined?
And we've been taught, I guess because the direct or indirect very specific directions about professional is looking a certain way and talking a certain way and what that means to present yourself.
Right. And I think, at least I was taught growing up in a lot of ways that I can't get certain piercings. I can't get tattoos. I can't dye my hair because no one's going to hire me. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Good thing I became my own boss.
And you have none of those things.
And I also have none of those things. But I think about it all the time.
It's funny because I don't even really think about it for the most part. My dad owned his own business. My mom was a private practice therapist. But I feel like I got those more of people will judge you. Not necessarily there's professional or unprofessional, but just that in general, people would judge you if you have those things. Now as someone who has large tattoos on their body, it's you don't even think about it.
Also, people probably judge you in a good way.
You think?
I see your tattoos and I'm they look fucking cool.
Jen, why we should take an episode. We could record an episode of you getting your first tattoo.
Oh God.
What do you think?
I'm down. I want to do it so bad.
Yeah, why don't you do it? What holds
so
you back?
scared.
Let's talk about it.
Okay,
what holds you back now?
What holds me back is it's permanent.
Yeah. Yes, it is.
What if I change my mind?
Yeah.
You know, and I'm like, oh God, what was I thinking?
But you might know what? I don't love all the tattoos that I have now.
Yeah.
I don't even think about them or care. I have a tattoo on my ribs that I literally always forget about.
What is it?
Exactly. Exactly. It's a saying, and I hate it, and it doesn't look good. And I got it when I was 18, and I don't even think about it or care about it, or nothing fucking matters.
So it won't even matter.
I don't know. It might to you. It sure doesn't to me, though.
I might still do it.
I think you should still do it.
I'm trying. I was talking to, I think, my parents recently, and I was saying to them, I'm trying to do all of the things that I think about in my head that I don't allow myself to do. Like, I'm slowly dyeing my hair purple, which, you know, is a real slow process. What else? I got eyelash extensions.
Yes, you did.
Whatever. It's dumb shit that you're like, oh, I want to try this. And then you just don't do it. And my parents were like, are you like trying to fill your bucket list or something? Like, should we be worried about you? I was like, interesting. Maybe.
Well, and maybe it's not a bucket list. Maybe it's just like, these are things I want to experience in life. And like, what's the worst that's going to happen?
Well, I think
if you get a tattoo and you hate it, you get it covered up with something else.
Exactly. Well, I think too, you know, in a lot of ways, I'm like, okay, when this happens, I'll do this. But like
what?
What am I waiting for?
Yeah, like wait. So like, what would happen?
I don't know.
What are you waiting to fully dye your hair purple for?
I don't know.
Why don't you just do it?
I'm scared.
Tell me. That's what I want to hear about. I want to hear
think
the fear. Because how much fear holds us back from shit.
Yes.
So whether that's starting your own business, whether that's showing up authentically for your business, whether that's saying exactly what you want.
Yes.
What's the fear telling you?
Well, I think it's just like, what if I hate it? I think that's always my response is like, well, what if I hate it? But like, so what?
Yeah.
It'll be fine.
Right? Like,
well, that's why I'm starting to do it. You know, I'm starting to actually like make moves.
You are, ever since I've known you, you are very much dip your toe in to see how it feels kind of gal.
Well, this is a great segue because when we first started the business.
Oh, my Lord.
Because Emmalee, I'm going to dip your toe in, see what it feels like.
I'm like, let's
think
fucking
about
cannonball. Because
for a long time.
I'll cannonball.
But when we first started the business, Emmalee came to me and she was like, we're starting a business. And I was like, I don't know. Like, it takes me, and I tell my husband this too, it takes me a while to process things.
Jen, it took me like a year to convince you to take 95 as opposed to 76 to the office. Like, you would sit in traffic.
I was thinking about that the other day. It was like 2 hours.
And I'm like, take 95, 76
I
is
get like
all
there.
right.
You're so right.
And then you're like, I took 95.
It was amazing. Oh, it's so true. So it takes me a while to process things.
Yes.
I have to really think about things. So Emmalee came to me. She was like, let's start a business. And I was like,
no.
Oh, fuck.
You were like, no.
I was like, no. I think I was like, I have to think about things. It's hard for me to just say like, yeah.
I think, you know what, if I remember.
Unless you give me like one glass of wine.
That's true.
Then I am in.
You know, I think what you said to me is, who's going to come to us?
Did I?
I think you were like,
I had imposter syndrome.
You totally did, right? So like when I talk about like fear.
Did you have imposter syndrome?
Yes, of course I had imposter syndrome, but my biggest fear is getting stuck in a situation where I'm deeply unhappy. Of feeling like I'm held hostage, whether that's in an unhappy job or an unhappy relationship or feeling stuck in that way. That fear is way more powerful than the fear of like not being liked or not working out.
I think, yeah, I mean, that's a good one. I should just try to like manifest that fear and make it a little bit bigger.
Right. I mean, like, okay, so like it definitely took a long time for our business to take off.
Yeah. How you think?
Yeah. Like it really took a while for success.
I remember we were sitting in my room in that like on Rodman. Do you remember that?
Yes, you're that house on Rodman.
That house, I didn't have a door and people would just like walk into my room.
You didn't have a door?
And
which you're the worst person to not have a door. 100%. Because you love privacy.
It was just triggering all of my like childhood stuff. But do you remember we were sitting on my couch and we got our first call ever. And they had seen our sign outside or something. And you said to me, you're like, this is a sign that this is going to work.
Yeah. You didn't believe me.
No, I think I did
in
at
that
the time.
moment. Then you trusted
And
me.
then maybe the day later.
But you want to know what? I didn't know if it was going to work. I just sure as shit knew I had to say that because I had to get you to buy in.
You're good. It's good.
I don't really know if I thought it was going to work at the time either, but I definitely knew, one, I can't lose the business partner. And two, this has to happen. So like I have to tell myself, and I'll do that to myself a lot. Like I tell myself, like, no,
this is gonna
work. Like
you say it very confidently, which is great. That's like we went on a hike on Monday.
We did. We took an intentional mental health day.
And Emily saw these like huge boulder rocks and decided it was a great idea for us to just like walk over them.
Did we have a choice? There was a river. We had to either walk all the way and hike back around 3 miles, or we had to go across this river.
But Emily was like hopping over these rocks leading the way, and she seemed so confident. And by the time we got to the stairs, we got over them, she was like, oh no, I didn't know if we were going to be able to do that at all. But your confidence was so wonderful.
I really take fake it till you make it to the next level. But I think that's a big part of business, of running a business, right? Like,
I don't think
working for yourself.
Talk about fake it till you make it enough,
right?
Because we really faked it till we made it.
Like, and I just had to believe this was going to work out. And I guess also because I was like, it's going to work out in whatever way it's supposed to work out. I wasn't sure if it was going to work out in terms of like us having all these clients or like whatever. But I knew that like this was going to develop into something somehow. Mm-hmm. And there was no way and I also knew that I would deeply regret it if I didn't. And that's a big thing for me is I think that like, we've talked a little bit about like, guilt is a feeling. Regret is like a thing that happened. And, like, I knew that I was, like, going to regret if I ended up working for someone else and then seeing them succeed and making them money, that I was not going to be happy in that. So mine's not fear. I guess maybe it's fear of regret.
Fear of something else.
It's fear of something else.
It's
avoidance of something.
Well, you know how people say, because I think that this is how I kind of function with fear is that, like, you feel the fear, but you do it anyway.
Yes.
And that was the same thing with the podcast.
Yes.
And
that was me with the boulders.
Business. Same thing with anything is that you feel the fear, but you still do it because you also prove to yourself in those moments that even though you have this fear, the fear is not a signal that you can't accomplish something.
Yeah.
And for someone like me, where fear is like really holds you back. Mm-hmm. And I think so often when we have that fear, like our thought is, well, I can't do this, right? Like I won't be able to accomplish this. When really the fear, it's just a feeling and you can still do it.
It's so interesting that there's a massive thunderstorm right now.
I feel like it was good background noise for like...
As Jen is talking about fear.
Also, I have a great segue.
Is coming down.
I have a great segue to that. I was terrified of natural disasters growing up.
I feel like that does not surprise me at all.
Our house got struck by lightning.
Oh my God, I didn't know that.
Yeah. All of our windows lit up blue. And I was like probably 6 years old. And me and my brother were screaming we're going to die because he was like very dramatic. And then I just like copied anything that he did. So we were just screaming we're going to die. Nothing really happened. And also my mom was very fearful of thunderstorms. Yes. She would make us, and this was before lightning hit our house, she would make us put on rubber shoes and go to the basement.
Oh, shit.
I know. So, like, no wonder I was scared of natural disasters. I was like, put your rubber shoes on. Don't take a bath. Apparently, if you take a bath, you can get electrocuted.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, like,
talk about your mom.
Anxiety.
But yeah, like, talk about, like, your mom sort of, like, putting her anxiety, like, right onto you guys.
Oh, yeah.
And, okay, so that goes, right? So, if we grew up in a family that was, like, very into being professional, right? Like, some family, okay. So, like, everyone knows I curse a lot. So, like, everyone's always like, oh, aren't you worried your daughter's gonna curse? And I'm like, no, I truly don't give a fuck. Like, because like if my daughter starts cursing, first of all, I believe that words are words, right? If she's cursing at somebody,
that's a problem.
Fuck you. No, I'm absolutely not okay with that.
And that's not what you're modeling.
No, I would never ever address somebody in that term.
I also think when you hold back and say like, you can't do this, they're gonna do it way more.
I just feel like I can't, you know what I mean?
I
don't believe that like saying fuck when you stub your toe or like, damn it, it's like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think those are bad words. I think those are just words and like we choose what we give words power to. If it's at somebody, it's very different, right? Like we don't ever use words to hurt somebody. That's like, that is a problematic in our home. But so like, yeah, like I don't particularly care if my kid curses.
I don't blame you.
Right? Like,
Also,
but people really do not like when I say that.
A little kid cursing is adorable.
It's the cutest thing. But she doesn't.
And like, how do you not
She
laugh?
actually doesn't.
You know what I mean?
For how much that like we do in our home, like she does not at all.
Because you're not, it's not
that interesting to her.
Because it's not like a word that you're like, ooh, don't say that. You know, like kids want to grab onto things. Because I don't know if you know, I'm an expert at kids.
You are.
But kids want to grab onto things that you say, like, don't touch that, right? Mm-hmm. It's like if someone says like, ooh, don't touch that plate, it's hot. You're like, oh, I'm going to touch that.
Yeah, right.
Same thing with like curse words when you're like,
your cactus metaphor.
Exactly. Yeah. And so, you know, I think when you say to a kid, you can't do that, they're going to do it more.
Yeah. Okay, so whether it's cursing or wearing rubber boots, like we get all of these messages from our parents, right? And a lot of those is like how we show up in a workplace. If I grew up with parents who wore a suit to work, or you know what I mean, like wore a uniform, like any of these things, right? There's like a very specific professional manner. Mm-hmm. Should you go into work and punch the boss in the face? Probably not.
No.
That does sound unprofessional.
Unless you're like a boxers. You know? Okay,
well, if any boxers were listening.
I know we have a large boxer audience.
We do. I think we do have a large boxing audience.
So just MMA fighting, maybe.
We do. So, yes. All right. But like, right. So like when we talk about like professional versus not professional, professional versus personal versus professional. Remember we used to do that?
Yeah, that was fun.
And then we went to Emma and Jen. We can do that again. But I think that there's a part of like what did we learn? And then also what does society tell you, especially like what is different for women versus men?
I was thinking that I felt it. I knew it was going to come out of your mouth.
So we did an Instagram live a while ago, right? Where somebody felt that we were very unprofessional because we had glasses of wine. But for the record, if any two men were doing that and they had beers and it was off work hours and it wasn't in a professional setting,
no one would ever say anything.
Nobody would say shit because we were having fun. And like the bigger part was like they were upset that we were having fun.
Well, I also think that we have a very specific model that we're building as therapists. And I think that this is why we love to talk about this, because part of being a therapist is connecting on a very human level. And so we get a lot of these mixed messages of, okay, you're supposed to connect on this human level, but like, don't be human, right? Like, but like, don't fully be yourself.
Yes, don't. Yeah.
But like connect with them on this human level.
Yes.
Like, how are we, I remember in grad school, I forget if I've ever said this, that we were talking about like greeting a client. And I would say, and I always say this because like I really do feel it, where you're like, hey, it's great to see you.
We were told to not say that.
We were told to not say that because they were saying it's not about you.
When you walk in, they told us, this is what they told you. When somebody was in the waiting room, just say, come back, come on back.
Or just like,
yeah, you just like wave them over. You gesture with your hand and wave them on over.
But listen,
I walk out to every person and say, I'm so happy to see you. I'm
too.
genuinely happy to see them.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I'm actually very happy to see them.
It doesn't mean they have to be happy, but
no.
like, yeah.
So that is what's confusing is because, and we talk about this in like kind of the old Freudian psychodynamic model. The therapist is supposed to be a blank slate. And so, but we were also taught come from like a one down position, connect with them like from a human level. And so like, how do you connect those two?
Yeah.
It's impossible. And so I think that even when we were younger and learning this, like we really questioned that a lot.
But you know what's funny is like when we got this really bad comment from somebody, do you remember what the thing that they said in there was that they are also a woman who owns a business and there's no way our business will last the way that we're doing it.
I mean, here's the thing. Our business is going to work for some people and it's not going to work for others.
But that also made me really sad.
Yeah.
That person did not feel that they could like have fun and be lighthearted and also be successful as a woman in business, right? Like, and that's really what I heard from that was like, I've never gotten to like relax and have fun at this. Yeah. Like that you feel like you have to have it together at all times. That seems so unattainable to me. And especially like within motherhood, right? Like, so like the past few weeks, like I haven't had like consistent childcare. And so like,
it's been
so funny. And so last week, you and Nikki came to my house. Nikki watched Millie as that is like what actual community care is. When we talked about in Emmalee Nagoski's book about burnout, and she talks about that the answer to burnout is not self-care, it's community care. That was a prime example of what community care is.
And it was so great.
And that only comes from being open and honest of like, I don't have childcare, and like here's what we have to get done. Like, could you guys just come do it from my house?
Well, and I think too that when you have the space to be able to like be fully yourself in all aspects of your life, it's less exhausting.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And because you know the feeling where you feel like you have to put it on. And when you're putting it on, and by the end of the day, you've like died a little inside.
Yeah.
I felt that when I was a waitress.
Oh, because you had to fake it so much?
Oh my God.
Yes.
I have never died inside so much. But when, as therapists and as business owners and doing our podcast, the thing that feels the most energizing is just to be able to be ourselves.
Yes.
But I think it's, in some ways, because it's our business, and maybe I'm wrong, it's easier for us to be able to do this, where like if you're a woman in a corporate male-dominated job.
Okay, like I always think about like my husband's an engineer, right? It is all men except for like 2 women there.
Yeah.
And all the time I think about like, wow, like that must be so different. Where like in our office space, there's 3 men that work here and it's all women.
And also, like, if someone comes in, they're like, I've had a really rough day, like, and they start crying, we're like, oh my God, come here.
Them.
We're like, if you go into a corporate job and you're like, I've had a rough day.
So then that's an interesting conversation about like, if a workplace is run by men versus women, like who is in power and what does that look like?
And how do you create a space that creates a level of safety for people to be able to be themselves and say, listen, my child was up all night. I had no one to help me. I'm exhausted.
Yes.
I don't want to be here today. And really feel like you can say that and also get your work done, but like not have to put on a face in a lot of ways.
And I think that's a good thing to think about, like if people that are listening that are business owners or are running something, like how do you make it safe for people to come to you? Right? Like, I think that greatly matters is like, what are our values? And this really is about like, what are your values and morals as an organization?
I think one of the things that we try to do with our clinicians is be really honest ourselves about where we are.
Yeah.
Right? Like if, we spent a week where we took off all of our clients and we met with all of our clinicians just to check in with them and see how they're doing. And, throughout the pandemic, like it's burned a lot of clinicians out. And
it's chaos.
It's chaos. And so we talk to them and we say, listen, we get it. Like we were there. Like, why don't you give yourself a little bit of a break?
Yeah.
Because I think in a lot of ways, as we were taught to come from a one-down position with our clients, that we've also taken that into our business. And I think that, when you're kind of in a manager role or you're in a supervisory role, to be able to come to it from, not from like a power position, which I think a lot of this corporate structure puts in place, to be able to come to it from like a one down position. Like, listen, I was where you are and I get it. Like, this is really hard. Let me see if I can help you, or let me see what to be able to come to everything from like a humanistic one down perspective, I think is so helpful and gives people space to be able to talk about what they're going through.
Yeah. I think it's, if you sit here and say like, why does it make me uncomfortable to be myself in a professional setting? What's the risk? In some places, it's really not. And also, we're talking about this as 2 white women. If you are specifically a Black woman or a woman of color, this might feel a lot less safe, and it might actually be a lot less safe, right? So is it safe for me physically and emotionally to be myself and be more authentic at work, or is it really not? And if it's not, is that okay for me? Some people are happy to compartmentalize,
right?
Some
they're
people,
good at it.
Yes, and they're so good at it, and they want it. That does not work for us. But some people have no problem. And so that's what we talk about. Like, this is the importance of knowing yourself.
Yes.
Of knowing which one works for me. Because you don't have to go into work and be best friends with everyone you work with. Work can just be a fucking paycheck, and that's it. And I don't care. And I have my hobbies on the side. I have my friends on the side. And that's what matters to me. So, 1, is it safe in that environment? And do I even want that? Right? Like, for me, I want to be able to, like, have all my tattoos showing and dye my hair whatever color I want and do all these things. But he's gonna kill me. But like Ben, who's here, is full. He's gonna kill me.
You.
Sorry, Ben. Who's fully tatted? And he edits this. And who fully is tatted up? Who always has it covered?
Right, always well covered up.
Right. That's more. That's
comfortable
and I
for
think
him.
that's his more comfortable. Right.
And Ben, you can edit this out if we're wrong.
Or you can now insert your own audio.
Ooh, that's good. I told Ben I want to bring him on for an episode.
I'm sure a lot of people, if we did a segment of Ask the Man.
Ask the Man.
Don't you think?
Absolutely.
People would be very interested to see, like, especially people that are like struggling to connect if they have a male partner.
Ask the Man therapist.
Ask the Man.
I think we should do the intro for it.
Ask the Man. Is that it? No, that's not it.
God, no. I don't think anyone's going to listen.
I don't think anyone's listening already.
I know. I think, should we do that thing where we send out like those, like a present if people are still listening to this?
No, because then Nikki, every time, like, Nikki's face was like, please don't do that, because every time she used to send out all the shit. She spent so much time on FedEx.
She like knows
Nikki
the FedEx
literally
people.
she just asked Jen, said that, literally went, no.
No, in the background.
But if you did our e-course and you liked it and you want to give us a testimony, we'll send you free merch.
Oh, yeah. And Nikki's willing to do that.
Nick, she said yes. All right. She did give us a heads up on that. Okay. So let's talk about, like, in a business setting, professional. Another thing let's talk about is like your space. Oof. Now, if you're in an office setting in a cubicle, some people want to have nothing up. And also, this is about safety, right? Like, if you want to have pictures of your family or pictures of your children, specifically like as a woman, and then people use that against you. And I think that can happen.
Absolutely.
So like safety should always come first.
I also think, I'm just thinking about kind of a corporate setting that it's easy to, I think people gossip, and I think that it almost breeds this like, okay, well, I have to separate my personal self from my professional self, because it gives people more like ammunition in a way.
Yeah. Well, okay, let's take Dr. Lindsay here.
Yes.
Dr. Lindsay, who's going to come on and do a few episodes at some point. One of our amazing clinicians, Dr. Lindsay Haston, who also works for the New Jersey prison system. Now, there is a very different thing where she has specific regulations about what she can wear in for safety issues, right? And certain ways of how she presents herself. She's one of the funniest people I've ever met, but she's not being that funny at work. Right?
I don't know. I think she might be.
She might be.
I would say she's probably one who like
she can do it.
She can do it.
She can do
right?
it, right?
That, like, she very much melds it together. I think it's almost a learned skill.
Yes.
And I think that part of that learned skill is relinquishing imposter syndrome.
And also, don't forget, learning means also having mistakes.
There you go.
You'll fuck up with this.
You're going to fuck it up.
I do it all the time.
But I think that, with imposter syndrome, that I think comes when you start anything new, when you're younger and you haven't been in the business world or you haven't been doing something for a long time, that our kind of default protective mechanism is like, oh, I'm just going to be very professional, right? And I'm going to put on this face. And
I mean, that's every person that interviews for us.
Exactly.
Like, okay.
And we're like, crack a joke.
Yeah, we're like, we want to see you and meet you, but like, they don't know if that's safe. They don't know if it's going to be held against them.
We should send them this episode before they interview.
Okay. What do we want them to know?
Be themselves.
But what if some people don't know how to do that professionally?
Right. To say that in the interview.
Right. I am working on my professional identity. I'm still figuring
being
it out.
able to feel comfortable being myself.
Yeah, professionally, right? I think that's a really valid thing. And I think saying that really matters.
And I think, too, when we have imposter syndrome, I think an easy thing that we gravitate towards is, like, what's everyone else doing? Right? Like, what are they doing? How do I compare myself to them? They're successful. And the way that they became successful is, like, being this professional, whatever. And then we look at ourselves and say, well, I'm not like that. And really, most people are faking it until they make it.
Yes, yes.
And you just don't know it.
And I do think that part of this is also being two white women in middle-class situations, right? As opposed to, like, if you are a black woman coming in, you being yourself might actually be, discriminated against in the office.
Absolutely. It wouldn't feel safe.
Yes, it wouldn't feel safe, right? And so that's what you have to think about, like, what are the values and morals, the values. I almost put that together. We can add them in, the values. The values and morals of the organization and the place that I'm working for.
That.
Because you're making somebody money.
Yes.
Whatever you're doing is making somebody somewhere money. So you better like that person. Or at least it better be good enough for you that you feel valued to be providing that service.
Or feel connected to what they're doing, feel connected to the brand. And I think that that's something we try to do as much as possible is make sure our clinicians know that they're valued, because they really are.
Ugh, well, they're the best people in the
They're
whole
actually
world.
Every time we have a meeting with them, we're like, we are so lucky.
So lucky. We're so
We
insanely
love
lucky.
them.
Yes, we love them.
And like they're giving such good care to other people and like living out this.
In 2 weeks, we're having an outdoor. We rented an outdoor movie theater to come to my house to have a scary movie night for Halloween.
I'm so excited. I really wanted to dress up.
Okay, yeah, nobody else wanted to.
Emily was not into that.
No, okay, it wasn't just me at the meeting, and everyone wants sweatpants, bro.
I'm just gonna blame it on you.
It's definitely me. I'm gonna wait till I show up in full costume, and then you can't say shit.
What would you wear?
A ghost, and I'll just wear a sheet over my head. That's a full costume, man.
I will fucking die if you show up with a sheet and 2 holes.
Done. All right, dear Em and Jen, pull it out, babe, because you know I never know where my cell phone is.
Yeah, I know. We actually haven't been able to
We haven't been able to find my cell phone all morning.
Ages.
So Jen, we'll have to read off the dear Em and Jen.
Okay. Dear Em and Jen.
How do I feel more aroused by drinking a beverage at 9:30 in the morning? Sorry.
Question. I have to say, the arousal has just, I am amped up right now from that free read. Dear Em and Jen, any tips on dealing with my significant other's toxic family? His parents got married at 18, Mormon, and are currently going through a very toxic divorce after 20 years.
It's so sad.
His mom has just recently discovered alcohol and goes out often. Dad has completely disappeared and quickly found a new girlfriend that he lives with now. There are a lot of fights and name calling. Both parents have the emotional maturity that I did when I was a freshman in college. Any tips on being caught in the middle of all this crossfire as a significant other?
So first, you need to read Children of Emotionally Immature Parents.
Oof.
Right?
Yeah.
That's what, like, really
love that one.
to get like a full rating. I highly recommend Children of Emotionally Mature Parents. I like that she identifies like they had the emotional maturity of when I was a freshman in college, because maybe these people do. If you were to think about them as 18-year-olds, would their behavior make sense to you? And probably. Maybe part of like this like reverting back is like if you get married at 18 and if you're in a very like purity culture religion, you may have missed specific parts of your emotional
You may get
development.
stuck there.
Right? So it sort of sounds like they're now replaying back those early 20s. Is there a way to have empathy and understanding for them, which I know might be difficult because you have anger, right? And saying like, okay, if I was to think about these as somebody who were like 2 18-year-olds who were going through party phases and dating phases and maybe bad fights, right? Like that's what I was doing when I was 18 in college, right? I would not say my relationships were very healthy.
No, definitely not.
I was like getting wasted and screaming at my boyfriend in the street.
Absolutely. That was the thing to do, is scream at your boyfriend in the street.
I was drunk. I was drinking too much.
And you would see other people screaming at their boyfriend in the street. You'd be like, I get it.
Right?
Totally
That's
get
thing,
it.
right?
Yeah.
And like, so like, I think that like, if you would think about it that way, but how do you then also set the appropriate boundaries to not let it affect you too much? Of course, it's going to affect you. One, how do you have empathy and understanding? And then also say, but we don't need to be involved in this. But if you remember at 18, if anyone set a boundary to you, it felt like rejection. Don't forget that. At 18 years old, if a friend set a boundary with you, it felt like a big fuck you. So when you set a boundary with them, they are not going to be happy.
Right. And I think talking about setting a boundary around your relationship too, right? Where the two of you can talk together about what kind of boundary do we want to set together?
Yeah.
What does this look like? How do we communicate it? To kind of make sure, because I think it's so easy to let outside external influences, especially if they're your significant other's family, infiltrate your relationship. And that's really what you want to protect, is your relational bond.
Yes. And I think this thing of like, if somebody's coming from any type of very conservative culture, they also might be trying to figure out who they are with a ton of shame. And when you are like battling that internally, you often become very reactive because you're like always pulled in different directions, right? So like one part of me has anger that I lost in my 20s and 30s, and the other part of me feels shame that I'm feeling this way. And so I also don't want to admit that because fuck that other person and screw them, and I'm just gonna be mad there, right? So like you're seeing like actual human development play out.
It's beautiful. You can be like an anthropologist.
So let's talk about objective observing.
Oof.
So what you might have to do in a situation like this is to try to take a stance of objective observing, to not get involved, to think about yourself as an observer. Let's go very Jane Goodall and the Apes here. Anthropologist, right? To observe, to understand what's happening. It doesn't mean you have to get involved to have an opinion. It means that you just witness what's occurring here. You can support your partner, but you also need to get your partner on board with this as well.
I wonder too, that my first thought that came up for me is, if in your family, right, like in your family of origin, if everyone is like, if there's a lot of enmeshment in the family and everyone's jumping in trying to solve these problems, there's a lot of emotional reactivity. Then you very easily bring that into your understanding of someone else's family.
Yeah.
Where there's this expectation of like, I have to jump in and I have to do something about this. Right. And I think with the objective observer, another thing that, you're kind of saying is to be able to take a step back and say like, this is not actually something that you have to take control of. You can kind of step back and say, well, like, what's happening here? Right? Like, you don't have to be pulled into the system. So I think in wanting to be pulled into the system, I wonder, like, in your family of origin, what did it mean for people to get upset and reactive?
Great point.
And what did that do in the family? And how might that be playing out in your understanding of what your role is with your significant other's family?
Yeah, absolutely. So, empathy, boundaries, observation.
Beautiful.
Hey, it's good to see you. If you liked this episode, which you probably didn't, frankly, it was all over the place, but if you decided that you did like this episode, send it to someone who might like it as well. We always appreciate a 5-star review. If it's one, you could just keep that opinion to yourself. You can follow, rate, review, subscribe to us. It's follow on Apple Podcasts, subscribe on all of the other amazing places you listen to your podcast. And hey, to know yourself, to grow yourself,
you gotta know yourself.
We'll see you next week.